Welcome to this video on predictions for the UFC fight card, Saudi Arabia, Adesanya versus Imavov, getting straight into the first fight of the main card. Imavov versus Offley. I think Imavov has got this one. I think it's a tough fight for Offley to get. To be honest, I think it's a step up. I think the point is that he does very well on the feet, and I think it will show a big gap in that area. And I don't think there's a big enough gap on the ground to go Imavov isn't going to get this one done. I think Imavov's ability on feet will come through, and look, he's got to improve the ground game against fighters that are going to use it. But I don't see Offley actually having enough problems on the ground or enough takedown, or he's not going to get him to the ground, I don't believe. So I think that doesn't matter. I think if it's on this, and if we then score it as a stand-up fight, who do I think is going to win? I think it's Imavov. I think he's just so much better on the feet, and I think you're going to see it early that there's quite a large gap between the two of them. I think Offley's good. I think it's just a bit too soon against someone like Imavov, who is a very dangerous fighter. On to the next fight, Said Nurmagomedov versus Oliveira. Look, both coming off a win, but Said's last fight was in 2023 with a lot of cancelled bouts in 24, so hasn't fought at all in 24. Vinicius Oliveira has been a lot more active 24, had many fights and got quite a few wins after his fights on the Contender Series, got a lot more active. And if we look back to Said's fight in 2023, got caught quite a few times in that 23 fight. Very fast though, but big movements. And this is what I've said, that the movements are very, very big. They're going for their head kick, going for the spinning kicks, spinning back fists as well, and sometimes leaving, especially the spins, leaving his back open and leaving himself open when he misses them. It showed round one he was doing all this, and he was doing it throughout the fight, of course, but he definitely slowed down and allowed, in his 2023 fight, the opponent to get back into it. And that's a scary point. When you're doing all these big movements, have you got the ability to stay doing that and the speed to stay up? Round one, Said's going to win it, I think, again. I think after that, though, Vinicius Oliveira, it just needs to start. If Oliveira's a lot better than Said's previous opponent, so can he move, use that striking and get some shots off very well? I think that's the point. I think Said's probably the fighter when he starts just calming the ability, the strikes and making it more technical in the sense of not throwing these massive strikes, because he's so fast. If he just kept a bit in the gas tank for later on, he'd likely have a lot more success than he has done. And that's the thing. I think Said is more likely to get to a sort of championship level with how fast he is, and the fact is, once he starts learning, getting experience and understanding in the UFC against UFC caliber fighters, I think that he very much that level can be a lot higher than Vinicius Oliveira. But I do think at this current point, Oliveira is just so much more, I think, just calm in there. I think that's the key point. He will keep in there and keep fighting pretty much how he does throughout the full 3 rounds, whereas Said will have quite massive drop-offs, I believe, in round 2 and 3. And look, it's a 3-round fight. Oliveira is going to win 2 and 3. Sort of decision 29-28. That's what I believe. Said's more likely to get a knockout, I think. But again, with the massive movements and what we saw in the last fight, if Oliveira gets a punch on him when he's spinning round, anything can happen. He leaves himself quite open in some of these moments where sometimes, look, these massive, he has massive periods of domination, especially in round 1, but when he starts to slow down that slight bit, and you've been doing the same thing in round 1, it's slightly slower, it just allows people to counter you. So look, I think Oliveira gets the decision there. On to the next fight, Pavlovich versus Rosenstruik. I think Pavlovich gets this done. I think the reach advantage is very good. The age advantage is also on his side. Lost last 2 fights though, and I think confidence will be slightly lower for Pavlovich, but I think, look, the positives to take away from that is Tom Aspinall's one, the top guy in the heavyweight division currently, next to John Jones, I'll say, until they fight, if they do, and then Volkov is third. The decision went to Garn, but really, Volkov won that, I believe. So, look, he's the third best in that heavyweight division. So, Pavlovich, look, you've lost against the top 3, really, in the division. I think that's no easy thing, but it does show his level. Rosenstruik obviously has won the last 2 fights. Gaziev and then Tuivasa. There's levels. I think there's levels where against a Pavlovich who is probably top 5 in that division, I'd say right now, I think it's a point of, look, yeah, you can beat Gaziev and you need to be anywhere near the top of the end of that division. And Tuivasa, yeah, you need to beat him to be sort of above like top 7. I think top 8 in that division. So I think that's the key. Whereas Pavlovich just went against the much bigger fighters, so like level wise, and Tom Aspinall obviously beats everyone. So I think that's not something we can sort of go at and go, well, yeah, he got beat. Well, yeah, Tom Aspinall's beaten everyone and knocked out pretty much everyone. I think Pavlovich, the power will still be there. I think Rosenstruik also will go for it. I think there's definitely going to be a KO of some sort. It depends who will win that, and I think Pavlovich does. I think he's just got the better chin, and I think that's the key. I think both will get hit, but Pavlovich has the better reach, and he has the better chin, and I think the power is... They both can knock each other out with one punch, but I think Pavlovich's power is quite scary, even against some of these other heavyweights like Rosenstruik, and how he went through the division getting KOs. I think it's still there. So I think both will land shots, but Pavlovich's power will cause more damage, and Pavlovich's chin will hang in there. So Pavlovich, I think he gets KO TKO in that fight. On to the co-main event. Magomedov versus Michael Venom Page, so MVP back in the fight. Obviously coming off a loss to Ian Gary. Not much in that really. I think Page did better on the feet at least, but he wasn't absolutely piecing up Ian Gary on the feet either. I think Magomedov, I think he's a great fighter, done very well since coming to the UFC, finished great finish last time out that we saw. It's a big step up though against the MVP. It's a big step up to an MVP. I do think it's very even, but I do think if we had to go through it, Magomedov he works well in the clinch. I think he works well in the clinch. I don't think he's going to go for takedowns, but he works well in the clinch, and just stopping Page, keeping a distance, staying out there with the jab, point fighting will be the key. Get him against that cage, clinch him up. That's where you're going to win against Michael Venom Page, I do believe. I think also Sage will be the bigger guy in there. I think he's going to be the stronger guy as well, which will help, and I think he gets a decision in this fight. Getting on to the main event, Adesanya versus Imavov. I do think Adesanya gets this done. That's the key for me. I think he gets it done over 5 rounds, got a better experience, better reach also in there, and in a kickboxing fight, which I think it will be. I don't think it's going to go much to the ground at all. I do think Adesanya wins it. I do think Imavov is a good fighter, but for now, it's a big step up. It's a big step up basically to a championship contending level. And I think he needs a few more fights. And I think he needs a few more fights at the 5-rounders against these top guys to really understand what the difference is. I do think Adesanya comes back with more speed and keeps moving and is looser in this fight. And I think he needs to be. I think if he loses this, it's key that he should probably retire. I don't want to see him fall down the rankings anymore. He needs to be going for title chances. Otherwise, what's the key is why see him in sort of, this is a fight to get him back in championship contention picture, and he's probably going to need another fight to get the championship shot if he wins that as well. So he's probably currently two fights away from then a title shot in his third fight. After this, it's at least going to be 4, if I would say 5. 5th one being that title shot. So again, that's another, if you're doing 3 fights a year maximum with no injuries, that's another year and a half. Adesanya hasn't really got that much time left, so I think if he loses his fight, the retirement is probably, look, let's have a think, because really, let's have a look at the future picture. You've got to get these wins, and if you lose, sort of, you get pushed back even further. And if you don't, and look, it's, even if you do win, it's another year, 2 years to get back to a title shot, which, look, it moves so fast. There's so many people in 2 years that could be coming up, young, hungry, new talents coming up, new, world of the sport going for, look, he's going to be the next champion. I think it's just going to be very tough. I think it's tough anyway for Adesanya to get back into this picture anyway. But currently, look, he's taking the fight. He obviously clearly wants to get into the championship picture again. The key is he's got to win quite decisively as well. I think that's the key. I think he's going to make a showing to say, I am back. To be honest, I think he gets a decision. I don't see him knocking out Imavov, but I could be totally wrong there. I do think he gets a win, but I do think it's probably a decision where he's tapping away. He's clearly winning it, but it's not a KO TKO, and it doesn't really get to that point. He may hurt Imavov at points, but it never gets to that point in the fight for most of the fight. And I think Imavov goes off from this and goes, well, look, I need some more experience. That's fine. I have fought a former champion now. I understand the point, and it probably makes him better for the future. But please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.